What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
We were talking about location. I'm in Houston. Somebody asked me the other day, Mike, how's life? I went, well, let's see. In the last 45 days, I've had a tornado hit my house, destroy my backyard. When they fixed my fence, they poked the electrical wire, so then I had no power in my house. And then 2 weeks ago, we had a hurricane. How are you doing? But in answer to your question with this is that if I walk in my backyard right now, guess what? I've got power on. My fence has been completely rebuilt. It's actually in better shape now than was before the tornado came in because it was already kind of getting old and weak or whatever. My backyard and all the plants that were knocked down, Houston's great. They've all regrown now. And so my backyard's turned back into a Garden of Eden. You know, and I'm in a better place today than was then. That's the reality of how's life.
That's it. That's absolutely it. So it's not in any way belittling or dismissing the challenges that we face. It's just absolutely noticing how you're describing them. And so a massive part of how you're describing them is about the emotional intelligence piece. So, you know, there's just a huge opportunity in the meaning out part of the wheel about actually how good are you around your emotional intelligence of understanding your thoughts and feelings and what triggers them and what is it that influences, you know, how you describe life's events to yourself and others.
Yeah. So, excuse me. If you can imagine one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because the book I'm writing right now, I did it again. Okay. It's called
That one. Yes.
Okay?
Move the ball.
Move the ball. And so it's how do we move forward? How do we take that step leaning forward? You know, I grew up playing basketball. And so you score not by just standing in one spot. You move it by the more you move the ball, you make the play happen. You get closer and closer to making a goal. In football, you move the ball. And, you know, in American football, you move the ball. You know, guess what? In your football, you got to move the ball. And that's why your message resonated with me personally about springing forward. Now, there's a topic that you and I were talking about also that it's not a new topic. As a matter of fact, it came out in 1981 in the War College. But it's some people know it well, but others have not exposed to it. I think it's an important concept that fits in line with what we're talking about, which is called, the acronym is called VUCA, VUCA.
Yes.
Which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Tell them why that sort of is kind of a center post that you have built a lot of what you lead with.
Yeah, so the sort of the full gamut what I do for clients is how to lead yourself and others well in a VUCA world, in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So the reason why I like the VUCA piece is that for an awfully long time, I've heard people say, and I've said it myself, the sentence of change is constant. And for me, the VUCA model is just a great way of actually delving behind that, building upon that, really exploring, being open and curious, Mike, you know, and actually, so what on earth does change is constant what on earth does that mean? You know, around what does that, I mean, that how we have to behave day by day and week by week. So there's the volatility is the speed and the rapidity of change. The uncertainty is the lack of the right answer. Complex is just literally we don't understand how things are going to impact each other, and ambiguous is just it's closely linked to the complexity is that there is the lack of a right answer. So there is a counteract to it, VUCA prime. So we need vision, understanding, clarity, and agility to counteract those. So the vision is situational awareness. It's our eyes, it's foresight. So how much are we being open and curious and looking up and looking out and looking around us and talking to others about what's going on? And the understanding piece is also linked to the emotional intelligence piece. So you have to understand that as a leader and as a human, you need to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. So it's like when you come to work each day, or often, some days you'll turn up and go, gosh, wow, it's a bit full on around here. And you go, yeah, it is. So comfortable feeling like that. Then we need clarity. And sometimes what we mean by that is because there is a lack of clarity, sometimes that you only clarity that you get is that there is no clarity. That's just, it's like, okay, right, we've got it. There is no clarity, and that's
right.
where we are.
We're going to accept that as a fact, number one. And when you accept that as a fact, then it lowers the emotional response down. This EQ, which is, of course, the space that I spend most of my time in,
absolutely,
is writing and teaching about emotional intelligence. But and you mentioned the word in here also about vision, understand, clarity, which is one of the principal roles of a leader, isn't it? It's to bring clarity, to whatever's taking place.
And the way that one works is that you imagine in your sort of delegation conversations between leader, line manager, and their people, the clarity piece is actually what are the boundaries that I've got to work within. So if anybody that's sort of listening now that has a line manager, has a boss, this is the question that you need to ask them. It's an interesting place. It's like, okay, boss, line manager, you've asked me to do this, delegated this to me, and you ask the boss, so what are my boundaries? And then the boss might know and they might not know, but that's where the conversation needs to go. It's like, well, your boundaries are these. Literally, we've got 2 of them, or we've got 3 of them, or actually, we've got 4 boundaries. This is what you can work within, and all of the gap in the middle is where you use your skills, capabilities, resilience, attitude, mindset, behaviors to achieve what you need to do. And the final one was agility, which is, so agility and adaptability are intertwined. So remember, adaptability is openness to change, but you don't necessarily do the change. You're open to it, but you're not actually done it. Agile is when you actually do the change. So you make a quick decision to go, things aren't working the way we expected, situational awareness. Right, we now need to be agile. We need to make the decision and, change direction.
That's right. Take the step.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason that all links to the resilience piece is that when people engage with their resilience wheel, they can actually do all the things in a VUCA space well. So there's loads of content around the VUCA piece about peak performance skills, leadership capabilities, and they all link to a resilient leader. So there's so much opportunity for people to play around with this learning to sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, I can actually lead myself and others much better. It's like, it's not necessarily the fact that the problems and the challenges have disappeared, but predominantly how you think and feel about them, how you're going to face into them, how you're going to lead yourself into them, how you're going to take people with you. They shift exponentially.
Right. So it's built to move, and especially if you look at the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I laughed. I said, "Oh my God, this was written in 1981 when it came up with this." Let me flip my calendar. Oh, it's 2024. Guess what? Today, I can't think of in my career a time that there's more volatility, more uncertainty, more complexity, and more ambiguity. I heard a statistic this weekend that floored me because AI is such I mean, it's prominent in front of all of us right now, right?
Totally.
I wish I could quote the guy. I need to go track his name down so I can actually give him credit for this. But the research he showed us was that they evaluated the IQ, just like we take IQ tests, today's AI engine, what their IQ score would be. They looked at it.
Oh, great.
They said a year ago, it had an IQ of about 65. Today, this is 2024, it's shifted all the way to 164, which was Einstein's IQ. They project that by the time we finish with 2025, we're not talking about 10 years, but 1 year, the IQ score of AI, the AI engines, will be 600.
Yeah.
So because of that tells us that this information swirl that we're experiencing right now will get both worse and easier to manage. We'll become more reliant. And so it's going to have an impact on us as we go forward.
It is as well. Absolutely.
It's phenomenal statistics. Now I can't, it's like, I tell you, we should have blocked 4 hours for this, but we didn't. We blocked, about 45 minutes. But there's something that you know, the people say, Mike, you're like the most optimistic guy. You're optimistic, right? And then so now I'm reading stuff and I see this word toxic positivity. And I
Yeah.
went, oh my God, I got to talk to him about this. Because we think of it, we're going to be positive. So you got to, so and you know why? I got to tell a quick story to set this thing up properly.
Yeah.
Early in my career, we're in a meeting in Dallas. We've exploded as a company. We went from one office to, I think, 15 offices. I'm leading one of the offices in my mid-20s, but we hit early, about mid-80s, which means that the economy here, globally tanked. United States, it tanked really bad. I mean, it's like everybody's on the verge of, it was nuts, especially if you were in the oil and gas area, because the price of oil and gas had fallen off the table.
Yes.
And the president of the company got up in front of everybody, very learned man, very stout man, and he says, there's a recession going on, and we choose not to participate. And everybody goes,
yeah.
And that's the last thing he said. I'm sitting there going, great. What does that mean? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Positive.
Yeah.
Right. But I think after looking at some of his stuff, it was really toxic positivity.
Possibly. Yeah. So that's what concerns me around this mantra of it's all awful. You've just got to be positive. Because a lot of people will go, but actually, I'm genuinely frightened, scared, impacted, don't know what to do. You can't just turn around to me and go, like, suck it up and be positive. It's like, I actually need a bit more than that. So I talk about optimism. That's what I suspect you do, like, without necessarily realizing it. So if you look up the dictionary definition of optimism, it includes the word positivity to describe it. So they're completely intertwined as words. But I want everybody that's listening and watching now to just think your route to hope and positivity is through this lens of optimism. So optimism is grounded in reality. So I'm unsure if this, leader that turned up and said, okay, there's a recession and we choose not to participate in it. I'm curious to know about where they're grounded in reality at that moment in time. So what resilient people do is that they, it's like, okay, this is a difficult, horrible, challenging situation. I need to understand the reality of it, and I have to get myself into a way of accepting it with good grace. Don't know I have to like it, but accept it with good grace. And resilient people can do that better than others. And then once you're grounded in reality, the next thing you do, which is heavily linked to the energy aspect of the resilience wheel, this is where you need to really genuinely understand what your strengths are, what naturally energizes you. So this comes from a psychometric called Strength Scope, and I think there's one Strengths Finder, which is a bit more in the US. So really understand what your natural energizers are and those of your people around you. So the conversation as a leader would be to go, right, this challenge has come along. Let's talk openly about the size and the scale of the challenge. Let's accept the reality of the situation and actually do it in a way in which we are not sort of depressing ourselves. We might have worries and concerns, but we can have an open conversation about this is the size and the scale of the challenge. Then we go, right, what's my strengths? What's your strengths? What's your skills? What's your capabilities? What's your natural resilience? What's your attitudes? What's your behaviors? What else have we also got within the organization and our resources? And then you'll start to go, actually, I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling positive that we will be able to face into these challenges. And you go, all right then. Yeah, I can actually be positive about the situation. But my route to getting there was that I started in great conversation grounded in reality, great reflection on who I am and what I can bring to the table and what everybody else around me can bring to the table. And actually, yeah, I feel comfortable, confident that we're going to be able to do something about this. And as a result, yeah, I'm positive about the future.
Yeah. So when you talk about what I love the magic that you were sharing in this, to me, it's as leaders, we sometimes think that it's the words that are coming out of my mouth is where the power is. What you just described to me was, as a leader, it's there's a module that I work with called Work of Leaders. It's it's what happens is cast a vision, it's build alignment, and champion execution. And we have a tendency to jump to champion execution as opposed to this vision casting, what's going on, and the build alignment component has to do with dialogue, not monologue. It's giving the people that are with you a voice to be able to express. And are they saying, well, I don't know about that. And what about this? And how are we going to do this? And realizing questioning is not doubt, it's conversation. And how do you have conversation? How do you allow people to feel like that I can have a conversation with you? Right. And my contribution to the conversation is going to be heard, felt, understood, not necessarily agreed with, but heard, felt, and understood.
And if you think back to if it has become part of your habitual behavior to be open and curious, then what I'm envisioning people are doing is that they are talking to all of their people in an openness, curious way about, how's your day going? How's your week going? What's going on for you? What do you think about this? What do you feel about this? How would we do this differently? What is it that I'm contributing to this that's working for you and it isn't? And in that, you are building trust. And so then when you get to a group conversation to go, right, we've got this challenging situation. As a leader, you may very well go, the emotionally intelligent leader may say, this is what I currently think and feel about the situation myself personally, because you've got to show a bit of vulnerability. And then everybody else in the room might go, well, yeah, I'm thinking this and I'm feeling this. And all of it is accepted. And then it's a case of, right, well, these are our collective thoughts and feelings about the situation that we're in. Now let's move them into, so what do we value about each other and who do we think is going to be able to support us in this moment? And then it's those literal things of somebody might be sitting and going, I'm a little bit worried about actually how we're going to face into that bit. And somebody else might go, so actually, that's not a bit that I'm worried about, and I've got some really great ideas about it. So let's have a coffee afterwards, and I'll support you on that bit. And then oh, okay, somebody's going to support me with one of my worries and my concerns.
Yeah. So what you're describing, if I were going to define the word trust, it's not honesty, it's safety.
Yeah.
Do I create an environment that is filled with trust? Do I feel safe enough with you to have a conversation, to realize that we're both focused on the same thing, that I've got my own objectives and you value my objectives and I value yours, and it's safe to have a conversation when you, as a leader, if you can create that kind of environment, my God, you can exponentially, make things really explode.
And for me, it's yet another living embodiment of, as a leader, of like, I don't have all the answers. However, there's a significant role that I play in enabling us to collectively come up with a way forward. You don't have to do it all by yourself as a leader.
I love it.
You need others to support you on the way, and that's the support network part of the wheel. It's all interconnected, Mike. It's all interconnected.
It's all told around this. I'm going to get selfish for just a minute here, Russell, because of the fact that the work that I do a lot is centered around emotional intelligence. And so tell me, this is I'm doing research with you right now. If you look at this resilience wheel that you have, where does EQ, what does emotional intelligence either contribute or is affected by the wheel?
All over the place, all over the place. So at the heart of resilience is our attitude. So that's to do with our value system and our beliefs about what we believe about things and ourselves. And so being emotionally intelligent, aware about actually what your beliefs are and what your triggers are is going to help you with the attitude piece. It helps massively around the confidence piece. So emotional intelligence, so confidence, our balance and positive, negative thoughts are heavily intertwined in there. It's hugely in the meaning aspect of the wheel because it's about our self-talk around it. It's in there as well. One of the 24 strengths in the Strength Scope Psychometric, which is in the energy piece, is emotional control. So people on the planet have got varying levels of natural energy for emotional control. And so it's understanding whether that's a strength of yours or whether it is just something that you are energized by less. And hopefully you'll notice that I am purposefully avoiding saying the word weaknesses.
That's right.
Yeah, it's literally, it's a case of we are energized less by it, is the strengths-based approach. And also your support network. It's depending on actually how much time you spend supporting others, and empathy, so emotional intelligence and empathy is to the conversations you're having with your support network, and are you building and growing it and nurturing it and building your relationships. So it's in many different places, Mike. It's in many different places. It's highly important.
Yeah, this is the center post. That's just a great way to wrap things up, especially when I add my definition to EQ. There's two definitions because you just teed it up well. It has to do with, can I look at life, can I look at situations through the eyes of somebody else?
Yeah.
If I can't, I'm going to have a lower EQ score. The more I can, the higher my EQ score is. Second definition that goes into it is, do I react or do I respond effectively? And where am I on that wheel? All right. And so what I love about your resilience wheel, today turned into be not just a discussion. I love this. I hope if you're listening to this, you've either taken notes or you go back and listen to this again and take some notes down. Better yet, you can do this. If you look over Russell's left shoulder, because see in Britain, they do things backwards to us or whatever. You look over his left shoulder, you have tons of contact ways of reaching out to him. I highly recommend, have fun, go online. There's YouTube stuff. There's videos on his website that are great learning. I had a blast, looking at when I was doing my research. Definitely feel free to reach out to him. If something spoke to you today, send him an email and say, this spoke to me. We, as speakers, we love that feedback, not praise. Praise is pretty cool, but it's feedback. It's feedback when a message is working. So, Russ, I want to thank you so much for the gift of your time and knowledge and heart that you've shared with us today. This has been fun. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. I've absolutely loved it, Mike. Thank you very much. And please, anybody that's listening, just let me know something resonated. It's wonderful to know that something resonated.
Yeah. So as we sign off, I just challenge everyone, go be resilient. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.